think that no matter how many times you are close to even something as benign as a prescribed fire, or even something that's not really burning all that actively, you always have to carry such a healthy respect, especially once you've seen fire in its most dramatic, burning at its highest intensity. Prescribed fire is a little bit different than what we would consider to be suppression fire. Prescribed fire just means that it's a fire or a project that we undertake for different reasons, for both the management of the fuel characteristics and for the ecology of the area. And it's just a burn or a fire that we purposefully put on the ground or on the land in order to meet some kind of ecological benefit. Most people don't really understand how critical and how important it is to basically maintaining the system that we have here. The ecosystem that we have evolved and grew up with fire. It needs to have it in order to maintain a healthy relationship. And so without prescribed fire, our forests and our areas will start to evolve or start to move on to something that's not completely natural. There are two different areas of the park. There's the prairie or the lower area, and that prairie area would become more dominated by shrubs, and it would become less and less that kind of what people kind of imagine or view or have this kind of idyllic idea of a prairie, that open, unbroken plain of grass. Without fire, eventually some shrubby areas or those heavier plants are going to come in and start to crowd that grass out. As you burn it over and over and over again, you're going to favor the grass, you're going to favor those lighter species that could recover or that come back immediately after fire, and you're going to disfavor those things that take a long time to mature. In our upper areas where it's dominated by ponderosa pine, without fire, those pine trees are going to continue to encroach more and more and more into those open grassy meadows that might have broken that pine stand up, and you're going to lose those. It's going to become more of a continuous pine forest. So when you look at a ponderosa pine tree, we know that it's very well fire adapted. It can take a significant amount of heat. If you look just at a ponderosa pine tree, even from afar, you can tell. Ponderosa pine trees naturally shed their lower branches, so they have very few branches lower to the ground that will carry fire from what would be that surface or that ground area up into the crown or up into the tree itself. Also, that tree can take a significant amount of heat. It has very thick or plated bark, and that plated bark allows fire to burn some of the exterior but does not penetrate the bark itself or allow that inner layer, that healthy cambium layer inside or just underneath the bark, to be impacted by that heat. So ponderosa pines can take a significant amount of fire right at their base, and especially a large mature tree, it will not slow it down or not do any damage to it at all. The truth is that fire is not really good or bad. It's just fire. It's just a natural process, and it's just part of the landscape. It's part of what would have taken place here. The only good part or the bad part has to do with the things or what we project onto it, basically our values. Maybe we value a very forested or a densely treed area. If that's your value, well then yes, fire might be damaging to that. But the land doesn't know that. The land only deals with what it's given, and part of what it would be given on a regular basis would have been that disturbance of that fire.